This video is designed for participants to gain an understanding of how to provide feedback to students receiving Tier 2 interventions, how the students are selected for Tier 2 interventions, how the intervention is progress monitored, and the role of the classroom teacher in the intervention. PBIS is the behavior half of the RTI triangle, and as such, just like with academics, 10 to 15% of your students will be targeted for Tier 2 interventions throughout the year. All students will be universally screened on a monthly basis by your PBIS team. Check and check out is the universal recommendation for the first level of Tier 2 interventions. On Check and Check Out, students have a daily progress report or DPR to be completed by their teachers. This provides the scheduled positive interaction between the teacher and the student. The students also check in and out with a greeter daily to ensure success and to monitor the student's progress. Each school universally screens all of their students to see which students are in need of Tier 2 interventions. MPS cut scores are the following. Any students with 2 referrals in a month in grades K4 through grade 5, any students with 3 referrals in a month for grades 6 through grade 12, and any students receiving 2 suspensions in a semester will be referred for Tier 2 interventions. Schools can lower these decision rules, but they may not raise them. All schools also accept teacher, parent, and student referrals for students to receive Tier 2 interventions. Schools will also screen the students and decide if this intervention will work for the student, and if not, another intervention must be used. Check in, check out works in the following manner. Students meet with a greeter in the morning for about 1 minute. They go over the goals for the day and ensure that the student is prepared for a successful day. The students then carry a DPR card with them throughout the day. Their classroom teacher positively checks in with the student throughout the day for less than a minute. Student checks out with the greeter at the end of the day to go over the points that they earned and to discuss the day. The student then takes a copy of their DPR home for their families to see, and students can remain on check and check out, be transitioned off, or move to more intense interventions as needed. A lot occurs behind the scenes with check and check out. The greeter checks in and out with the students daily, has conversations with the students, and collects the DPR cards. The PBIS team reviews data monthly to see which students meet the universal screener and should be entered into check and check out or another intervention. The team goes through any parent, teacher, or student referrals for students into Tier 2 interventions. The team enters progress monitoring data in Exceed, and the team reviews data of all Tier 2 students to see which students should stay on, advance to higher tiers of interventions, or be removed from Tier 2 interventions.
Okay, so today's Thursday, and you do have a specialist. So you have 56 total points that you can get today.
Okay.
How many points do you think would be reasonable to earn?
45.
42? We can go for 42. I think we had 38 yesterday, so that's pretty close. Okay, what class do you think you need to focus on the most today?
Social studies.
Social studies. Okay, I'm just going to put a little, so you know, we're focusing on social studies. Okay, do you have any questions?
The classroom teacher has a very important role in the effectiveness of a check in, check out program. The teacher must check in with the student throughout the day during the times marked on their daily progress reports. This should be done while not interrupting instruction, so you want to find a time when other students are engaged in an activity, taking a quiz, etc. The teacher should also make sure to remind the student to check in with them. The classroom teacher also needs to have a positive interaction and conversation with the students. They need to discuss what they are doing well, what can they improve, and the teacher should provide corrective feedback and suggestions on how the student can improve their behavior. The classroom teachers are administering the intervention through their regularly scheduled positive interaction with the student. This is the most important element of a check-in and check-out program. All students receiving a Tier 2 intervention will carry a daily progress report, or DPR. The DPR has the school-wide expectations on it divided by chunks of time. For middle school and high school is divided by classes. For elementary school is divided by blocks of time throughout the day. The DPR allows for the student's behavior to be monitored over time. The DPR is just to monitor the intervention, it is not the intervention. The positive interaction between the student and the teacher is the intervention. Here's an example elementary DPR. As you can see, it has the times of the day across the top, and then the school expectations down the side. The teachers take a moment and give the student a 1, 2, or 3 for each of the expectations at the time marked on the DPR. Teacher feedback to the student is crucial for a check-in, check-out to be effective as an intervention. The teacher gives the student specific feedback on the positive behaviors the student exhibited in class. The teacher also gives corrective feedback for any negative behavior the student exhibited in class. You can suggest ways the student can improve their behavior, not just mention the negative behaviors. Once you give the feedback, you want to complete the DPR with the student scoring them on each of the expectations. How do you think you've been doing today?
Good.
What are 2 good things you really think you did today?
I was quiet at the table.
Excellent.
I was quiet at the table and I did
Excellent, excellent. Let's take a minute here and let's go through your card here. So for being safe, would you give yourself a 0, 1, or 2? What about for being respectful?
2.
Excellent, I agree. What about being responsible?
2.
Excellent. So today you got a perfect score. Come back to me later today and we'll do the next section of it. Keep it up and have a great day. Thank you. It is important to give corrective feedback to the students and not just point out their negative behaviors. For example, instead of saying, "You were not prepared for school again today," say, "You did not have your book today. Please remember to bring it tomorrow." Instead of saying, "You were late today just like yesterday," say, "You were late for class today. Please be in your seat before the bell rings." Instead of saying, "Why do you always have to shout out during class?" say something like, "You shouted out while I was showing the problem on the board. Please raise your hand and I will call on you next time." So what kind of day do you think you're having today?
Not very good.
What are some things you think you can improve on? Throwing some things, that's right. So maybe tomorrow, instead of talking so much, you can just kind of focus on the academics. Know that you will have lunchtime after school. You can talk to your friends. Instead of throwing things, you can just raise your hand, go to the garbage, throw it away. You can maybe bring the garbage can closer to you, so you don't have to keep throwing things towards it that way. I did like how you were a positive leader, though. When we did that little breakout session, you were the first one to raise your hand to be the leader, and you led them. So I really did think that was a good. So we can give you a 2 for being a leader. What about for being respectful? Did you give yourself a 1? What about being responsible? 0? So no, we can improve upon tomorrow. But we can have a great day the rest of today. Come see me after lunch, and we'll go through this again. So thank you. Please pause the video and take a minute and work through the following scenarios as a group and determine how you would give corrective feedback in each of these situations. In review, the teacher plays a very important role for any Tier 2 intervention. The teacher's role is to remind the student to check in with you during class. This should occur at the predetermined time on their DPR and occur when other students are engaged in learning. The teacher will discuss with the student any positive things about their behavior in class and provide corrective feedback to those areas the student needs to improve about their behavior. The student and teacher will then complete the DPR together, and the teacher should encourage the student to have a positive behavior throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow.